Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the show. It's February 9th. It's a Tuesday, and that means Susan should be joining us. Suze, hello.
Yeah, and you started talking before I heard the beep, so it sounds like everything's going good.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
I need to actually address some of the technical issues we're having. Since, let's see, last Thursday, when our brother was a guest, everything went okay till the end, and then all hell broke loose. I don't know. He couldn't hear me. The audience couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear him, and whatever. It was a disaster.
And hilarity ensued, yes.
And hilarity ensued, I think, yes. Not for us, but... And then yesterday, I was, doing my thing, and toward the end of the show again, people couldn't hear me anymore. I didn't know that. I was babbling on. Amy told me that what was weird is my connection was still there, but she couldn't hear me, nor could anybody else. So we're flummoxed. I shouldn't say we, because I wouldn't have a
Because
clue.
you start out flummoxed.
Yes, that is right.
Your condition, the condition of your flummoxity is not at issue.
That's correct. That remains relatively static, constant. But Amy's always been able to figure these things out, and she's flummoxed. So here's what we're doing today. It's just a little different. It was her idea. She's, I guess, trying to factor out my own landline that I'm always on. So I'm now on my cell. I've never done the show on my cell phone. So that's where I am. And I don't know if that had something to do with me hearing the beep then before you did.
You mean it works?
The beep actually has worked for the last... I'm sick of this. It seems like my entire, ever since
it does.
The show, right?
Yeah.
There's one technical thing after another. It didn't matter if we were in a studio. Didn't matter. It was just so. This is our latest, and my apologies to everybody. We'll try to figure it out. We usually eventually do. I'm a little I use my cell phone normally to get alerts and to see and to access certain things. So I'm now operating without that ability. So whatever, we'll just forge ahead. It's a big day today.
Do you have a computer and stuff?
I have a computer, but it is set on my email site so I can see.
I got to get you an iPad. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, let me try to get this together. It's amazing how just holding my cell phone is discombobulating me. It's discombobulated. Hey.
So let me just ask, because our mother wants to know, are you warm? Is it cold there?
It's okay in the temperature department. It's cold, but I'm looking at it, just gorgeous, new, looks like 6-7 inches of snow. So we're very, very white and snowy.
Okay.
Is what we are. But I know the cold is coming, real cold.
Yeah, well, I walked an 8 below this morning, and I no longer look at the wind chill, because I'm here to tell you that I cognitively cannot discern the difference between 8 below and 24 below, which is what it says I'm feeling, even though it's only 8.
They're both horrendous. I know. Yeah. What is the point of that?
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes you feel colder, no matter what.
It's looking at the number traumatizes me. In fact, going out there, it's absolutely no big deal. it's the stress of thinking it's going to be a big deal. But I just keep putting on lots of clothes. Now that I'm old and I don't care if somebody looks at me and thinks that who is that ridiculous person walking around like that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. I don't care. And I'm perfectly happy. I'm just as comfortable as can be and sort of enjoying being out there all by myself,
It's like when Sally Wiggins shows up to walk my dog. She looks, you would no more know that was Sally Wiggins than, she's got all the right gear and she's totally, outfitted, but you wouldn't know who she is because she doesn't care either.
No, you want to be comfortable. You want to be able to move. You want it all to work. But yeah, in the end, you're just out there, going, look at me. It's one of those things that makes you proud. The poor dog, of course, is just miserable.
Well, so I can see we've got single digits. I haven't seen anybody suggesting, well, we'll get below zero, but I'm sure, I was reading the, something gave way up there in Canada and all that cold Arctic air that usually gets stuck up there for the Canadians to deal with it has just totally dropped down into the center of the country, which is where you are.
Yeah, but I don't think, I'm thinking back to our childhood, and below zero was absolutely not uncommon. In fact, I've experienced this winter as being, thankfully warm, and the fact that this has waited until February to show up, where it is simply by nature limited to how long it can hang around. And in fact, next week it'll be 35 again because we're heading to March. Yeah, I'm going, okay, good. I can handle a week.
We can do this.
Yeah, big deal.
We can do this.
But there are no doggy boots available in Green Bay. And I just want to point out, Green Bay is not a place where doggy boots used to exist.
Well, that's for sure.
And the only thing I could find was the cutest pair of extra, extra, extra large dog trekking boots that I swear look like I could wear them. Except I don't need 4. And then the small ones, and neither one of them would do for dog. And I have to admit, dog wouldn't walk a step if I put a boot on him.
No, that's what I was going to say. I once stupidly got some of those stupid boots for Blue, trying to, my concern to keep the salt.
Right.
And, I should have asked him first. He was not, no way. They're still in a drawer here off the kitchen. There's no way. So
I got 2 on, one each on Ernie's front paws one year. And then he just stood there for 4 hours. Finally, I took them off. I gave up first.
Oh dear. All
right. I'm sorry. That was a diversion. I apologize.
Okay. I just want to note though that we'll all probably be glued to our televisions this afternoon, right?
I'm so excited that it doesn't start until after I'm done boxing.
Yes, and I after the show, because I was thinking, oh my God, what would we do? So it's a big day, and we're all going to be stuck watching, I'm sure. But
did you see that the legal expert that the defense team cited about late impeachment has tweeted overnight that they totally misunderstood and misrepresented everything he said?
No, but I'm not surprised.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So I did alert Susan yesterday to the fact that I had this rather strong reaction to the Bruce Springsteen Jeep commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. And I asked her to make sure she would watched it. And then I watched it once more this morning because I only saw it that one time, and then I watched it again this morning. And I'm saying all this because I got some really interesting emails about my reaction. And Susan, I don't know your reaction.
My reaction is that I, if I took it out of the realm of advertising and just was listening to Bruce Springsteen sort of read a meditation about the country, I would have been quietly moved by it. I'm always just sort of irritated by the fact that it's Jeep telling me this shit. And saying, this is the place. I don't know. Honestly, I was so bored by the Super Bowl that I didn't see any of the commercials.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what was your reaction? It was just, you were.
Mine was a lot more intense. And I've had, because of the pushback, I've thought more about it, and my reaction remains. Susan, I had a very visceral reaction to it. And I was stunned. And I thought, I couldn't even let myself acknowledge that was Bruce Springsteen. I said, is that Bruce? What? Because I thought, given the imagery that was coming at me, see, you're talking about what he said. I'm looking at the images, and I'm thinking, what right-wing group put this thing together? And
really?
That Bruce Springsteen was, yes. So it shows the power of image. And my reaction to the images was...
Because he was wearing a cowboy hat and had his hands in dirt, you thought it was right-wing?
Yeah, no. It was because there was nothing in it but white, Christian, rural iconography.
Well, that's true. I didn't look at it from that point of view. You're absolutely right.
Right. That's all I reacted to. So it even started with a cross.
Right. It starts with a church in the middle of the thing. I agree with that sort of
flag. And I thought, well, right away, he's telling me to unify, and I'm being left out. I said, where am I in this?
Well, that's like when I went to Branson for a wedding, and which was dotted with wedding chapels all over the place, and I was asked whether I thought it was beautiful, and I said, well, it's not particularly inviting to people like me. And they said, why? And I said, well, there's a church everywhere I look, and they say they're non-denominational. And I said, my church doesn't have a cross on the top.
Okay,
so I understand.
Exactly. So there was that tone deafness.
Yeah. Okay.
About it, and well, I've thought more, but let me get to some of what.
Okay. No, I did not have that reaction, but I can now understand him. You be more woke than me, dear sister.
Or maybe on edge. I don't know. Brooke wrote, "I'm having a hard time understanding why anyone would have a hard time with these words." And she put the transcript of what he said. I think people are getting this all wrong, she said. Try reading the words without watching the video. Okay. Shall I read the words?
Sure.
There's a chapel in Kansas standing on the exact center of the lower 48. It never closes. All are more than welcome. To come meet here in the middle. What? It's no secret. The middle has been a hard place to get to lately, between red and blue, between servant and citizen, between our freedom and our fear. Now, fear has never been the best of who we are. As for freedom, it's not the property of just the fortunate few. It belongs to us all. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, it's what connects us. And we need this connection. We need the middle. We just have to remember the soil we stand on is common ground, so we can get there. We can make it to the mountaintop, through the desert. We will cross this divide. Our light has always found its way through the darkness, and there's hope on the road up ahead. Well, first of all, I will say that is, just a whole bunch of whatever. Fine. If you could.
It's corporate gobbledygook, feel good patriotism.
It's pushing every button. So if people were moved, then I understand that. But where they say things like the freedom belongs to us all, whoever you are. It's what connects us. And I'm screaming, wait a minute. I have learned that a lot of Americans' idea of freedom is the freedom, for instance, not to wear masks and to infect other Americans. I mean, we don't agree. What is this freedom? I mean, it's all this cliche with no. Anyway.
Well, it's the same. Well, no. On one hand, I'll agree with you. It is basically the Republican argument about forget all that shit. Let's just unify.
That's right. Let's move on, because this is not what I said yesterday. Is the timing's wrong. There's no way we need unity right now. We need this trial. We need some measure of consequence. This is way, way premature. And again, the iconography leaves out all the Americans that Trump people are scared of. There ain't a black or a brown being to be seen. There's not a mosque or a synagogue. There's not an urban person. And here's where I think they went wrong. They went wrong when they got married to this idea of the geography. Let's find the middle of the country. And so it is. It's this place in Kansas, Trump country.
Yeah, makes money off of being the middle.
Yeah, let's do it so that they got stuck right there with all the imagery, leaving out all of us, the vast majority of America, who live in urban America, in a diverse America. And so the pictures are what made it just was. So that's it for me. Anyway, but I appreciate what everybody else is saying. And then Chuck said this. I really think you need to watch that again. First, it wasn't an ad. I took it as a plea of sorts, a feel-good sentiment delivered by one of America's best storytellers. Secondly, there were no black people in the commercial, but there were no people at all, actually, just Springsteen. I literally cried when I saw this commercial. It said what I wanted to hear. Why wouldn't you want this country to find a way back to the middle? I took this message as being anti-extremist. I simply loved the message and loved the photography. It was a good message for these times. That's from Chuck. But Chuck, I totally understand. I mean, you're the guy. That's exactly the reaction they intended, that Bruce intended.
Right, and my guess is Chuck and I'm not. There's nothing wrong with it, but he is in the included group.
My guess is he is.
Yeah.
So he would not have.
You would not have that reaction.
Crosses. He does not. As a matter of fact, when he sees all the crosses, and man, there are a lot of crosses in there. When I watched it again this morning, there was not only that initial cross, the chapel, then there's a cross on top of an American flag, which again is troublesome to me. Then there's at one point there are 3 crosses, like on like the crucifixion thing, like Calvary, right?
Right.
There are 3 crosses, and I'm thinking, what is this? Because I am not Christian, but I am American. But so if I were Christian, I wouldn't have been affected by that. But I'm telling you,
but you see, this is how this works. This is why white people are largely unaware of their privilege, because they don't see it that way. They just see it as life.
Well, right.
And why
is our mother's milk
right
to them, but
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, so if you don't,
I understand that.
right, you can't fault somebody for not understanding that because you've never lived it, never seen it, never understood it, it's not the way everybody else lives. And even if you have sort of a sense of that, it's still not the way everybody else looks. So for my, extended family to see me standing there on the beautiful hilly, land of the Ozarks with a picturesque little white chapel with a little cross on it on top of every little hillside, and why I just didn't find that the most charming sight I'd ever seen. And honestly, I felt vaguely threatened. To me, it felt like, you're really not welcome here.
Well, that's what
our idea of diversity is to accept different kind of Christians, and we don't even do that. So yeah, I mean, I get that you feel that the people that are not, of the majority culture in this country, which is not the majority of people by any means, but is the majority culture. If you are not that, you really have to work at understanding that the rest of us live our lives getting subliminal messages that we're not wanted.
That we don't belong. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. So we have a caller, but I just want to let in one more. Milton says, he said, I had the same visceral reaction to the Springsteen Jeep spot. And I want to say that Milton is African American. Okay, he said, I wondered if his bandmate and longtime friend Clarence Clemens were still alive, who is also black, how Bruce would feel about presenting that vision of America to him. How would good old Clarence feel about the fruit of Bruce's first ever foray into commercial endorsement? So yeah. Let's go to the phone and go ahead, caller.
Okay, let me explain mine and my wife's take on this. We're watching it and we're like, what is this about? I mean, it's commercial. We'd had no idea the product. And quite frankly, it did bring a tear to our eye. And at the end of it, even after we knew it was a Jeep thing, my wife said, and I don't know if this will surprise you, that's probably pissing off a lot of conservatives. So I think it's 100% on your vantage point, because I think Springsteen was making a plea to those crazy center of the country white Trumpers. And while it excluded, a lot of other people in our population, I mean, that's the way we took it. And I think my wife is right. I think she said he pissed off a bunch of those people in the area he was talking about. Now, how about that? He can't make anybody happy, can he?
Well, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Wow. Thank you for that. And it just again shows thanks. Appreciate that. I've got another caller, so I'm moving on. Thank you.
Okay.
So there you go.
We're all capable of being outraged by the same thing for no end of reasons. Go ahead.
Wow. So that was their takeaway. So another caller. Hello.
Yeah, this is Kurt from Splitsville.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
I'm okay.
Hey, I'm going to be a little redundant because I had very much the same sentiment as the last caller. When I saw that commercial, I was like, oh, this is great. I looked at it. I said, the imagery is there to appeal to the MAGA people. It's not there for me. I mean, I agree with your analysis from a liberal perspective. It's all spot on, but that's not what I connected to. I looked at it and said, the audience for this commercial is the red hat people. And this is Springsteen's subtle liberal message to them to quit being assholes. And I love it because that's what I thought it was for.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
Well, can I just say, this is, if you were in a synagogue and there were 85 rabbis discussing a segment of the Torah, And they would argue for hours because they'd all have a different take. And that's what we call commentary. That's how we come to understand how things work.
Yeah. I knew this was. I told Susan, watch this ad because I think it'll be an interesting subject, and it is. And it's teaching us all this lesson of being able to, I guess, stand in someone else's shoes and imagine that very same message and images coming at you, and you see how different people will react in different ways. Yeah. And there's none of these reactions are wrong. None.
No. Oh, how can they be wrong? This is their honest reaction to viewing the exact same material.
It's interesting. So, hey, Kurt, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I gotta get back out and finish the walk.
Finish shoveling. Yeah.
It's a cultural Rorschach test.
Yeah. Interesting. But I mean, it shows how, it's not like everybody who is engaged in this conversation now, generally are in the same, are in agreement about the politics of the day, right? We're pretty much in agreement. And yet this, you can see, totally different reactions. So I think that's great. I really do.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You can't argue that whatever they intended, it's done its job. If in every sense of the advertising word, we know whose commercial it was, and you have now spent 2 days talking about it. So bravo to the team. They sparked actual cultural conversation, and they got you to say Jeep, 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 Jeep. Good work.
I guess.
Well, that was the brief.
Yeah, but at the end it says the undivided states of the ununited, the reunited.
The reunited states of America, right?
And I thought, would that it was so easy. It's just
thank you, Jeep. Okay, that's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Anyway. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. So I also have to add this other thing. I got Mary just wrote and said, because I told you there's always snow on the ground. The snowies saved the day once again. Got my driveway cleared in under an hour. And then she says, we are downsizing. God, darn it. Probably moving to an apartment. Excuse me. And have thrown so much away. But I am taking the snowies. I figure I'll unassemble it and store it under the bed. I don't know where I'd find another one.
I cart mine around, yeah.
Yeah, I understand and you know what's funny? I got this is an email that came in a few days ago. I listened to you years ago when you were on 1320. I'm so glad I finally traced you down again. I remember when you adopted your son. He's probably all grown up and on his own, or in college even. All such great memories of your old radio show. And then she gets to the point. It's not she's glad to hear me. She says, you advertise this crazy shovel, which is like a half moon for pushing or pulling. I bought one for my father-in-law 23 years ago. And I wonder if they still sell them. Thanks, Lynn. So that's what she wants. She wants a Snowy.
A Snowies. You can have mine for $500. You have to pay the shipping.
Yeah. So that's what I want to tell Mary, there's gold in that there Snowies. Because I had to, of course, tell this poor woman that you can't get them anymore. Those of us who have them are hanging on to them. And those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's a product that I advertised for years and is amazing. and never found, talk about advertising, right? Never found a way, never found someone who was able to market it. And it's a brilliant product. It's just fantastic. And I can assure you, after the show, I will go
Right.
out.
It's like a little miniature snowplow. That's what it is. It's got a moon-shaped thing that flips, so it can either push or it can pull or push, and you just walk along. You never lift anything. You just push it out of your way like a snowplow would.
And when you're done, your driveway has these scalloped edges from the shape, which is fine and dandy with me. It's just the greatest thing ever. And there's a great story behind it, but I won't bore you with it now because most of you already know it. Anyway, okay, so I guess we've finished off the Bruce Springsteen's foray into commercial stuff. He obviously, had always been known as somebody who would not endorse a product. And it lends credence to what the callers said about his intent, that he finally said, no, I will do this, because he saw an opportunity probably to reach out to that center of the country, which hadn't even occurred to me. I was just feeling very.
I just like to say this, though, that if anyone's comforting themselves that all of the MAGA hats live somewhere far away in the Midwest, you got another thing coming. They live next door to you. They live all over the country, and there's lots of them.
Yeah, but they like that iconography.
Yes, they do.
They love that all white, rural, Christian America. Yep. And it's why there is a MAGA, because they fear they're losing it. So it's really very, 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 very heavy, the whole dang thing. Whew.
So you think your lieutenant governor is going to be your next senator?
Well, that's interesting. I just, I don't know. What do you guys think? Fetterman, he's I mean, if the country were voting, he'd be a shoo-in. Yeah, but he's an absolute shoo-in. Why? Because of the way he looks. Because of the way he looks and talks. Sounds, and the way he was talking during. Yeah, you could tell he's bright, and he's bright and relatively progressive, and 7'5", and looks like Lurch, and he has a beautiful wife and family, and so what's not to like? I don't know. Except that you think he's a jerk, but other than that. No. I have had to reassess. I don't think he's a jerk. I think I got angry at the way he inserted himself initially into the last Senate when Toomey won re-election. Fetterman jumped in to the it doesn't matter, but he allowed, from my point of view, our weaker candidate to take on Toomey. Toomey won. So I just sort of thought his own personal ambitions had gotten in the way. Yeah. I mean, since then, I followed his career, and you can't help it but be impressed and to like him. It's very accessible, and it's odd because he's clearly. I mean, when you're with him in a social setting, which I have been a number of times, he is so awkward. He looks like somebody, he's standing in the corner. And if you're 7'10", as I said, you can't not draw attention. And he looks like he always wants to hide. And he can't. So he's not very, it's weird that somebody who seemingly has a little difficulty conversing with a stranger would be in politics, but he is. It's weird. He's a strange, interesting guy. Harvard educated, from an upper middle class family, and he chose this totally different world to inhabit, and he's, I'm sure, made his parents proud. The thing is, he will not be the Democratic. My guess is the Democratic Party doesn't want him running, doesn't want him as a candidate.
Because he's too progressive in their minds.
Well, that, and he just, because he's a little, doesn't look right. He's, he scares them. And that's why they'd be, I think, wrong again.
That's what he's got in favor.
Well, yeah, but you know who they want, I suspect, is somebody else you probably know of. And he is a member of Congress from these parts.
Oh, they want Lamb.
Connor Lamb.
Yeah, they want Connor Lamb.
Speaking of the middle.
Yeah.
Speaking of the middle. And you can see where that would be. Pennsylvania is a very, really MAGA rich state. And so who knows?
But that explains why what's his name did what he did. Fetterman did what he did and came out and he got out ahead and he'll build up a head of steam and hope that Lamb won't want to take that on.
Right. Exactly.
He'll wait 2 years and take on the next one, And
I have to tell you, another possibility, although I guess he's not, is our Attorney General is fantastic, Shapiro, and he would be a great senator. He's been a very activist AG. He's done amazing things with that position. Took on the Catholic Church here and just did for the sexual abuse thing.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah. So he's done. So there's Josh Shapiro as well. The Democrats in this state have it's a rich load, and the Republicans not so much. So I would think this is the Democrat seat to take, and I think Fetterman in the Senate would be a great idea. I'm definitely backing him. I am. Even though he doesn't like me, I am backing him.
Right, and don't underestimate how that size and his presence can absolutely motivate people to follow him.
That's right. Just his look, he should have things. Just his scowling face saying, "Vote for me."
Right.
Vote for me, or I'll come get you.
He should have a license plate that says, "Don't touch this."
And meanwhile, he sends out all of these, fundraising things using his dog. He has a very, of course, cute dog. Okay, we got a lot of email here to get to. Let me. Kurt writes about Fetterman. I like his progressiveness. He may have a shot if his bluster appeals to the Trumpers in the middle of the state, assuming they really like a non-politician. But he is a politician who tells it like it is. He's been a politician for the last 20 years, Kurt. He
just doesn't look like one. That's what I mean.
He just don't look like one.
Right.
And believe me, he has a great asset in his wife, Susan, who is just an amazing woman, an immigrant, who's just done incredible work in town, setting up a free store. She helps the neediest people. She really digs in and works. She's something. Henry writes, I have been fascinated by the debates about the Jeep ad. I did hear one comment that made me think, if it was Amanda Gorman reading those same words, would you have had the same reaction? It wasn't the words. It was the images. Okay, so if Amanda Gorman were reading those, was doing the narrative, but I'm still looking at crosses, And
it wouldn't matter.
No,
and I'll tell you something.
No,
if it was just her voice and you weren't looking at her, you wouldn't care. And one of the things that bothers me about this wonderful young woman who is just at the beginning of who she's going to become is that because she's so beautiful, she's being splashed all over, and I don't want her to get in her own damn way. And I don't think anybody would be paying any attention to her if she weren't so damn pretty, which just irritates me.
Well, I feel she is being, co-opted, and she's willingly. I hope she gets takes some more control.
Yeah.
Well, just take some more control. Really.
Yeah.
Really. And she's smart and ambitious, but I hope she takes more control. I have the same feeling.
Yep.
Just watching people wanting to, eat her
take
up
a piece
alive.
of her quick. She's gotta value herself and all of her, and make sure that people are valuing her for the right reasons.
Exactly. Right.
And they stay out of her way. That was another thing on my list of things that, I experienced as joyous, and that just are then, being used and abused immediately.
Same reaction. Okay. And Roger writes, yesterday said the Chiefs didn't show up. Their quarterback was running for his life. They had 3 offensive linemen playing new positions for the first time, and that poor left tackle was way over his head. That's why left tackles make the big money. It was a boring game. Brady is great, but I don't like him. Oh, so it was just an all football thing. Let me just say this. You remember I shared with you the story of the French-Canadian football player who was on the Chiefs?
Yeah. That's the doctor. Yeah.
That did not play this year because of COVID, because he's also a doctor and has been. He was one of the people missing from that line.
Yeah, but I have my own theory about this too, and here's my theory. When the line coach, the head coach's son, got in the terrible car accident the night before the Super Bowl. That was a bad omen. That just put stink all over the team, and they couldn't shake it. When that happened, I thought, that's it. They're going to lose.
Yeah, it was I can't even imagine. So the head coach.
His head someplace. Everybody's head is someplace else.
Think about Andy Reid's son. Okay, he had 2 sons initially, and I still remember when he was the coach at Philly, and his kids were causing unbelievable trouble, getting arrested, drunk, drugs, guns, all of it. And I remember feeling sorry for him. And then one of the kids OD'd. And the one that's left is this one, who clearly has a drinking problem and had a drinking problem back in Philly. His dad has obviously kept him close and given him these jobs, but I feel for him. There's no way that Andy Reid's head wasn't. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
totally in the game, and the players too.
And that was it. That was just it. You don't have to look any further. You're right. One team couldn't show up.
Yeah.
Plus that. That big toe thing on the pork on Mahomes. That hurts. Mahomes to run with a bad toe really hurts.
Don't worry, he's got a long, incredible career ahead of him. Maybe not as long as Mr. Brady's, but long.
No.
Do you know what I was thinking when he accepted when he was standing there with the Vince Lombardi trophy, and his kids were there. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm.
And I looked, he has 2 sons, one getting up there, maybe about, I don't know, I couldn't tell, but, I was thinking, how hard would it be to be Tom Brady's son? Wouldn't it be hard?
Yeah, well.
Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Your father, defies he would be a hero, right, to you, but sons of men who are almost like gods don't do well. And I was looking at the kid and saying, I hope you'll be okay. This has to be. I know it seems ridiculous, but I feel for the kid.
Well, just don't be a football player.
Well, that's true. Definitely.
Just make your own, own way and live your own life, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll have all sorts of advantages. And hopefully Brady's a good dad. That would be, as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that's important.
Anyway, Keith writes, here's the reason I think Fetterman has the best chance to win. It's not just the progressive politics that he embraces, but also the progressive politics he doesn't embrace. Namely, you don't see him beating the drum about gun control. Well, he's a politician. Oh, Susan, and he's not against fracking either. So he
Of course not. Right.
All right. I think this is by design, knowing that he can't win a majority in a state so loaded with hunters and gun owners. Well, that's why a whole ton of the so-called Democrats in this state and in the state legislature are pro-life, meaning anti-abortion, and they're pro-gun, which always strikes me as a very odd combo. Yep, I'm for life, and I'm for these little gizmos here that takes it away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to shoot and release a deer, but never mind. We need to cull them.
Okay. So, did we get all that? I think we sort of did. Hang on while I get my act together here. Oh, what's happening in states controlled by the Republicans now? A lot of them, they all are looking at legislation, Susan, you'll love this, that would mandate that in their schools they have what they're calling patriotic education.
All right.
Meaning a whitewash.
Right. Meaning white male history. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna mandate it. It specifically is aimed at making sure no school district can use that New York Times 1619 or thing they put out.
Well, it's like, you read the article about where was it, Utah, where the parents wanted to opt out of Black History Month.
Out of Black History Month.
I don't want my children to know that there's such a thing as Black history. What does that mean? I don't understand. What do you mean opt out of Black history? First of all, it's a travesty that we have to have Black history. We should just have history, which includes Black people, women, Jews, Muslims,
that's right.
Let's give all the credit where it was actually due.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, you know how I feel about that nonsense. I think that we ought to, I think we need to send Republicans to re-education camps. That's the legislation I'd be up for.
Okay, well, that's what they're saying you're going to do. Okay, now, I want to go back to Milton because he posed an interesting question. I'm not going to explain what it came out of, but it had to do with another ad in the Super Bowl, actually the one for... I don't know what it's called. It's the one where they spoofed the Four Seasons landscaping. It was, I didn't see it, but I've seen it since he sent it to me. Very funny, very clever. But quite clearly, this was making fun of Giuliani, Trump's team of lawyers challenging the election. I was quite clear. And then he says this, and this is not isolated. There was an avalanche of big multinational companies that either directly or, in the case of Facebook and Twitter, or indirectly, like GM, reject the Trumpist ideology. It seems as though the only American manufacturer willing to stand with Trump is MyPillow, although there are more. But so here's his question. The question is, what's it say about a country in which the capitalists of industry are more progressive moral leaders than the actual leaders sent to Washington, elected by the people to uphold and defend American morality? Isn't it problematic that these corporations are more willing to lead on these issues than 49% of the governing legislature? Had the halftime show not been horrendous? Okay. So he's saying, what do you make of it? Well, look, corporations, with their pushback now, they're saying their PACs won't fund any of the Republicans who.
Well, it's just bad for business to cut.
Exactly. Thank you.
All of those different people out of your consumer base.
Right. They're not progressive, these corporations. They're making business decisions.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I think too. Now, every once in a while, there might be a corporation like Ben and Jerry's that has clearly, or what is it? Which is Pansy Spices, that are quite clear about their progressive politics and do very well. But no, the biggies, they're just minding their business.
Their finger is up in the wind.
So, speaking of business, I just want to point something out that I've always known, and Americans always forget, especially those who vote Republican. It's been my experience, and now I have the facts and figures right in front of me, that every time there's a Democrat in the White House, the country does better. And I mean economically.
Right.
I mean, the Democrats in the White House, Democrats in control, Democrats with their policy create stronger economies than Republicans. And you can't argue with the graphs. It's just unbelievable. Just go back to like the Depression. Since 1933, every time a Democrat has been the president of this country, the economy, the average rate while a Democrat is president of growth is 4.6%. Okay? Every time a Republican is president, half of that, 2.4. Every time. The 6 presidents who have presided over the fastest growth in jobs have all been Democrats. The 4 presidents who have presided over the slowest growth in jobs have all been Republicans. Now, this is what's wrong with people having a vote. They don't know the facts. If you're concerned and want a job, why would you vote for Republicans? They aren't going to give you one. And so that they can appeal Republicans over and over and over again to their working class base. And they can depend on them. It's just mind-boggling. Well, because their base doesn't apparently have a clue to what works in their favor and what doesn't. And this pattern holds regardless of which party is running the Congress. So there you have it. There you have it. You want the country to prosper? You vote for Democrats. Oh, God. So, okay.
Well, would that it were that easy, dear Lynn.
I know. So we have a caller, but we're running out of time. Caller, go ahead and be quick.
Hello. Yeah, I was just. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember how that went with. Do you remember at the election in 2016? It was literally by the end of the month, all of the polling from the Republicans switched to them saying the economy was now good, and it was 2 months before he was even inaugurated. He then was inaugurated with what I think, whatever the number thrown around for full employment used to be below 5%, and it was below 5% when he was inaugurated. He left office with it over 6%, but they're completely unaware of it. Like I like to torture myself when I'm not listening to your show. I turn on the conservative talk shows, and they just pretend that none of that ever happened. They say the total opposite. They just completely make up a reality where the economy, they talk about the economy improving under him. They never point to any numbers to support it. Nothing. You call in and try to say he was at full employment when he was inaugurated. They just hang up on you. They won't. They absolutely will not listen to it. They don't know, and I'm pretty sure they don't care, because they just then when that's done, they'll start talking about fracking, and you pointed out that fracking went on before he was in office. Doesn't matter. You'll point out they'll start talking about the pro-life judges or whatever, and you'll be like, well, he only cares about them until they're born. Then he's fine with executing all of them. They've got no problem with that. So I don't. It's like what you always say. It comes back. They don't care anything about what's going on as long as they're in power and they can just make up a reality. And that seems to be.
And they have, and well, that's right. Republicans, they cling to their theories. The magical power of tax cuts. I mean, they really have no programs. If you think about it, even now, they're going after, Biden's plan to do this and Biden's plan to do that. When is the last time you heard any Republicans bring forward
anything
legislation?
Their whole plan for COVID was to do nothing. Their plan for everything for the last 4 years was to do nothing.
To do nothing.
And,
that's
right. So and we thought you can point out, okay, you did nothing. Here are the results, and they're like, yeah, those were great results. The only thing, remember, they actually think that things for COVID went well under him. And the only thing, I've been in these conversations, and I'm not even slightly kidding, their argument that his policy that turned everything around with COVID was calling it the China virus. And I'm not even remotely kidding or exaggerating. No. Because they'll point to this vaccine and you're like, well, what does it matter if there's a vaccine if nobody can get the thing? And he spent the last 3 months of his term doing anything other than working on getting us the vaccine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But I guess I'm preaching to the choir, but this is one of my number one.
I know. I know. It's just, but that's the other thing is they've dumbed down the populace by defunding public education because stupid people are more easily duped.
Right, but the people that are calling into these talk shows when I'm listening, because these are not the local ones. I don't even know what the local ones are, but they are. These are not young people. I don't know what education system they went through, but it was not anything that's been in place for the last 40 years.
Well, the education system that they know is the right-wing media propaganda machine. They've got that down. They
turn on Fox and turn your brain off. So
that's it.
And whatever their news is, I don't know how much you watch some of those other stations, but they're just completely bonkers. One American News.
I know. Terrifying. I can't. Yes. I don't. I'm scared enough without actually forcing myself to take it in. Hey, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Okay. Bye. You too. Well, I'll tell you what. I hate to say this, but there were no glitches today. Are we going to blame this on my landline?
Well, perhaps.
Whoa.
Maybe you just need new phones.
Well, I want to defend my landline. I don't think it's my How would it be my landline? Anyway.
I don't know.
Doesn't make no sense. Anyway, but this worked out okay, and I thank you for that.
Okay, well, good. And my knee is finally healed from my ice fall, and I'm going to, honest to God, put on the gloves and punch today. I'm very excited.
Well, I know, Susan, that is something that helps you release a lot of bad vibes.
Well, it's also good for my brain. It's fun aerobic work. It's fun.
Okay.
It's fun to beat the crap out of something that you aren't actually hurting.
I guess. I wouldn't be able to.
You know, that's okay. We'll talk about this sometimes, but I did have to overcome my natural tendency to want to literally pull a punch. But once you get over that, man, okay, goodbye.
Goodbye, Susan. All right. Okay. So, guys, what? We got an hour, and then the second impeachment trial will begin. Methinks we might talk about that some tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to take my snowies. I'm going out there because even with my back surgery, I don't have to lift anything with it. Here I am selling them again. It's such an easy sell. Oh, God. Somebody figure out how to manufacture these and I'll go into business with you. We could make a ton of money. I'm not kidding you. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.